$4.5 billion in revenue, $4.5 billion in cost. I mean, it was really kind of like a non-profit. They'd run it at roughly break even.
But that's not a bank. That's not bankruptcy. You're not saving that company from bankruptcy.
No,
it's breaking even.
But then the issue is that if you then add $1.5 billion in debt servicing and have a massive drop in revenue, we did, which was partly cyclic and partly political concerns or whatever. So revenue dropped by over a third. It's not, and this is not just Twitter. Facebook and Google also seen some significant advertising revenue declines. It's been a little higher at Twitter, but most of the advertisers are coming back. So I think we'll be back where there's a cyclic demand drop, which is still pretty significant. But in rough numbers, revenue dropped from $4.5 billion to $3 billion, and expenses went from $4.5 billion to $6 billion, creating a $3 billion negative cash flow situation, and Twitter having $1 billion in the bank. That's 4 months to live. So unless drastic action was taken immediately, it's going to get done.
Let's talk about that drastic action, because almost immediately you sacked a lot of Twitter workers. And I spoke to them. It was very easy to speak to them when it happened, and the way they said, pretty much everyone said, is that it felt quite haphazard.
It was,
and it felt a little bit uncaring.
I wouldn't say uncaring. The issue is like the company's either going to go bankrupt, or if we do not cut costs immediately. This is not a caring, uncaring situation. It's like the whole ship sinks, so nobody's going to die.
Right. Yeah. But a lot of people just lost their jobs like that, and they weren't. They didn't even know they lost their jobs off it. They were just frozen out of their accounts.
What would you do?
Well, you might want to give someone some notice. I mean, you might. By the way, I'm not running Twitter, but
but
this is the criticism, and this is what staff members say. A little bit of notice.
No, I understand. You have 4 months to live. 120 days. In 120 days, you're dead. So what do you want to do?
How much are you worth?
I don't know.
But we're talking about around the $200 billion mark. I mean, it's not quite. You're framing it in a way that that it had a few months to live. Quite a rich man.
I sold a lot of Tesla stock to folks too. I did not want to sell the Tesla stock.
Okay. Do you have any regrets on the way that some of the staff were let go?
I mean, we were given 3 months of severance, in cases more. So, but like I said, the companies need to run on their own cognizance, and it's not so easy for me to sell stock. That's one thing. I have to sell stock during certain periods. I can't sell stock during other periods. So there are only brief windows where I can sell Tesla stock, and then this is often taken as some lack of faith in Tesla. And in fact, the Tesla stock sales forced the Tesla stock to plummet, which is not good.
Do you think those two were connected?
Well, the people couldn't parse the difference between I'm selling Tesla stock because I've lost faith in Tesla, which I haven't, or that it's desperately needed for it.
Okay, and then after that, you let go of a lot of staff, obviously Twitter became slimmed down a lot, and then you started making some more policy decisions. One of those policy decisions was to bring Donald Trump back. He hasn't actually tweeted yet.
Right.
Do you expect him to come back at any point? Like, have you spoken to him?
I don't think he may not come back. But the point is that Twitter should be a town square that gives equal voice to the whole country and ideally the whole world. It should not be a partisan politics, and the more of partisan politics that are very far left perspective. It's not just political politics. Normally, it's quite niche, but Twitter effectively acted as a megaphone for very niche regional politics and megaphone that to the world. So, in order for something to serve as a digital town square, it must, serve all people from all political persuasion, provided it's legal. So, close to half the country voted for Trump. I wasn't one of them. I voted for Biden. But nonetheless, free speech is meaningless unless you allow people you don't like to say things. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. And if the point at which you lose free speech, it doesn't come back.
I think the issue some people have is that a lot of people were brought back. I mean, some people were brought back who were previously banned for spreading things like QAnon conspiracies. You have people like Andrew Tate who were brought back, who were previously banned for things like hate speech. Do you think you prioritise freedom of speech over misinformation and hate speech?
Well, who's to say that something is misinformation? Who's the arbiter of it? Is it BBC?
You literally asking me?
Yeah.
Well, no. You are the arbiter on Twitter because you own Twitter.
Yes, I'm saying who is to say that one person's misinformation is one person's information? The point at which you said that there is this is like who is going to decide that? You accept that
misinformation can be dangerous, that it can cause real world harms, that it can potentially cause
Yes, and the point I'm trying to make is that the BBC itself has at times published things that are false. Do you agree that has occurred?
I'm quite sure the BBC have said things before that turn out to not be true.
Correct.
It is, whatever it is, 100-year history, I'm quite sure.
Yes. Even if you aspire to be accurate, there are times when you will not be.
But
I think in the grand scheme of things, the BBC does aspire to be.
But you accept there has to be a line in terms of hate speech. I mean, you're not looking at total 100% unrestricted speech.
I generally of opinion that if the people of a different country are against a certain type of speech, they should talk to their elected representatives and pass a law to prevent it. So, for example, you cannot advocate murdering someone. That's illegal in the United States. Everywhere, I suspect. So there are limits to speech.
I guess taking your argument to a logical conclusion then, do you accept that there's more misinformation on the platform if it's not being policed in the same way?
I actually think there's less these days because we've eliminated so many of the bots which were pushing scams and spam. And previous management turned a blind eye to the bots because their bonuses were tied to user growth. If your competition is tied to user growth, you're not going to look too closely at some of the users. That's part of the problem. So I think we've got less misinformation because we don't have one problem we used to do. And we also have given a lot of attention to community methods, which corrects, when the community itself corrects misinformation. It's been very effective.
I would only just add that we have spoken to people who have been sacked that used to be in content moderation, and we've spoken to people very recently who were involved in moderation, and they just say there's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech in the company. Is that something that you want to address?
Talking about? I mean, you use Twitter,
right?
Do you see a rise in hate speech? I mean, but just a personal anecdote, like what do you? I don't.
Personally, for you, I would see I get more of that kind of content. Yeah, personally, but I'm not going to talk to the rest of for the rest of Twitter.
You see more hate speech personally.
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean? Describe a hateful thing.
Yeah, I mean, just content that will solicit a reaction to something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm
just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content, and I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples.
Right?
Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. I don't
name a single example.
I'll tell you why, because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore because I just don't particularly like it.
You
And
said
actually,
you-
a lot of people are quite